Okay, I'm going to install a bowl-type carburetor for the Polini. This is a Polini PWK kit 24, I believe it's called. It's a bowl type. It is to replace, or I wanted to replace the wobble type carburetor that came with my Polini. So we're going to go ahead and do an install, and hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to go from this to this with the reservoir system, your pump, and the bowl type carburetor. Okay, and the first step that you want to do when you're hooking up the new kit is you want to remove the old carburetor. This is the old Warblo carburetor from Polini, basically Warblo type that I removed. It was very simple. I disconnected all the tubes, disconnected the throttle cable, and then what you want to do is look at it. It sits in there just like that. So what you want to do is undo the 4 screws. Now the first thing you're going to have to do though is 2 screws inside here. You can see them right there. Okay, you want to undo those first, and that will release this carburetor from this flange that it actually sits with this new rubber one that sits now. You pull that away, and then that'll give you good access to these 4 screws right on this. So you want to undo the screws, save your top screws. Actually save them all, but save the top screws because you're going to use them again. You lightly pull it out and take this apart. You're going to keep your coil plate holder. You can still use that, but you're not going to use the gasket because the rubber gasket that's actually on here will go flush against the metal, so you don't want to use it. So you want to make sure that's not attached when you put this new one on. Okay, after you take this one off, again, it's very simple. You know, the first step you do is you take the old airbox off that basically fits like this. You're going to take that off, undo the screws. Okay, this comes off, and then you're going to undo these 4 and take this whole carburetor assembly off. Again, wipe it off with a rag. Make sure it's clean, there's nothing wrong with it. And then what you want to do is mount the new rubber manifold gasket to the motor using the 4 screws there. Once you mount that, then you're going to mount your carburetor. Now, this gasket, basically, you will want to turn it upside down. If you do, the carburetor will be sitting flat, or actually be sitting like this, level. You don't want to do that. The instructions say you want it tilted up. So you got to make sure, do a trial fit, and what you want to do is put this on. If the carburetor is sitting like this, where it's at an angle upward, then you got it right. If it's sitting flat like this, you need to switch that over, turn it over. Okay. Once you get this carburetor set up, then the next step is what you want to do is now you're going to have to work on the throttle cable, and we'll go to that one next. Okay. To work on your throttle cable, what you're going to have to do is take the old throttle off the old carburetor and set it aside. Once you get this carburetor in place and tightened down and stuff, then what you're going to do is you're going to take these 2 screws out. Now be careful because there's a spring in here, and if you just pop those screws out, it's going to fly out on you. So you got to make sure you hold it and keep pressure on it, get the screws out and slowly lift it out. There's also a plunger in there, so you're going to have the top with a spring and then a plastic cap or a poly cap on it. And then you're going to have a plunger, so you're going to have to lift the whole thing out, and be careful because that's also where your needle is. Once you get that out, you're going to have to determine what type of throttle cable you have, and you're going to have to thread it back down through the carburetor, and you're going to see where a little indentation is in the plunger that holds the needle that you're going to have to put the cable in, and then make sure you have free access. So once you have it in there, and then you tighten it back down, get everything nice and set. So what you want to do is once you get that cable hooked up, you want to make sure you have free play in it. So make sure it opens up all the way and it closes all the way. It opens and closes, and there's no binding on it. Okay, that's what you want to make sure of. Like I said, you're going to install the new airbox. Make sure again it has the 2 inlets for the air, and you'll know it. Make sure the clamp is loose because you want to make sure it's seated all the way on. So let's seat this all the way on there. There you go. Okay, it's all the way seated. I'm going to turn it where I like it. Okay, then you just take your screwdriver, And you can tell it's all the way seated in there. And you're just going to screw it down. Okay, that's how you install it. That's the installation of the Polini carburetor, and the next steps will be to now hook up all the lines. Okay, now that we got the carburetor all hooked up, it's time to hook up the fuel lines to it and drain lines. Okay, there's two systems. You have the pump and you have the reservoir system. We're going to concentrate on the pump right now and then later discuss the reservoir system. Okay, the pump has three outlets. You have your B outlet, which is down at the bottom. And remember, it's already been hooked up, I should put in place on the plate that came with the unit. So you have your pump up here. Now, when you put this pump on, you have to make sure this pump is higher than the crankcase of the motor, which is down here. So as you can see, here's my crankcase, and you can see that the pump is actually higher than where the crankcase is. Okay, so your B line from this pump goes to your gas tank. So you're going to hook up right from your gas tank, the feed from your gas tank, to this B line right there. Now, I have not hooked it up right now just to make it simpler to show for the video. Okay, your next line is your A line. Okay, now your A line comes up from the top, and you can tell it relatively easy because it's on the face of the pump. Just look at this little copper or bronze looking little button here, filter here, and that's on the outside. That's where you'll find this nipple. That's your A line. Now this A line is supplied, it's already hooked up, and it's a black tube that goes to your crankcase breather, and that's hooked up right here on the motor. So that's your A line. Okay, your C line is a clear tube, and that's what's going to feed your carburetor. That's the output of the pump. Your B line is your input to the pump, feeding from the tank, and your C line is your output, and that goes up to the carburetor. Okay, here's your pump, the back side of your pump, and as you can see, you have the clear tube right here. That's your C tube, and that goes right up. You can't miss it, but it goes up, and that's what feeds in to the carburetor right there. Okay, the next step is to go ahead and hook up the reservoir system. Okay, to hook it up, it's already mounted on the plate. So this is the reservoir system. It sits right below your pump, and you got your lines A, B, and C, and your line D. Your D is a line that goes right to the tank. And now I use my vent tube that's already existing on the tank and hooked it up here so the excess fuel drains back to the tank. Okay, your C line goes up to your carburetor. Your B line, which is this middle line, hooks up right here to the bowl carburetor. And your A line, which is on the very end over here, comes back and hooks up right here underneath this one nipple on the carburetor. Okay, that's how you hook up the reservoir system. Now your C line coming from the reservoir system, like I said, comes up here and hooks right here on the carburetor. You'll know which one it is because it's the only other existing nipple that's right next to your line that feeds from the pump to the carburetor. And you'll also be able to identify it because of a small little hole that was already put in the line. Okay, again, like I said, after you get it all hooked up, then you got one other step. And I would highly recommend that you read the instructions for that come with it. But you're going to have to adjust your valve, your choke, your needle valves, your air, and all that stuff. And these are the buttons you're going to use on it, and it's spelled out in the instructions that come with the kit.